Hello my fellow creatives. Today is a special day because today we're going to be looking at this amazing lens, the Sony 50mm f1.4G Master, and we're going to be using this on the A7R5. I'm super excited. I recently switched from Canon to Sony for many reasons, and I'll do that in a separate video to talk about why I switched over. But today I'm just excited to focus on this lens and to see what the results will give me. So today I'll be working with a model in a studio. We're going to do some creative style portraiture, so non-traditional with some interesting lighting and stuff. So we're going to just see what we can get. So why don't we go ahead and take a trip to the studio and see what we can get today. So let's go.
That is beautiful equipment.
Oh, thanks.
Love it.
I agree that it's beautiful.
I bet you enjoy using it too.
I do.
Yeah? There you go, dear.
Oh, you got that?
Don't you spill it on your equipment.
I won't spill that on
no,
my
no,
equipment.
no, no, no. Take it easy. Have
All right,
fun.
thanks.
Have a great time.
It's a brand new day and I'm excited to take a look at some of these photos I captured in the studio, and I just have to say, using this amazing 50mm 1.4G master lens has been a treat, really. I've used a lot of 50mm in my life. I've used the Canon 50 1.2L lens. I've used many Nikon 50mm through the years. I've used a lot of 1.8 50s, 1.4s, and 1.2 50s. And I think this one right here actually does a great job of combining lightweight, small package, and perfect optical quality, in my opinion. And so we're gonna take a closer look at the results that I got. But just a few quick things. As you can see on this lens, you can customize. There's customizable buttons on here to do different things, which is really cool. So far, what I love about the Sony system is you're able to customize everything about the camera, which is fantastic. And I love that this actually has an aperture ring here, so you can actually control aperture right from the lens if you want to, instead of the body. And you can actually have it click, or you can actually declick it, so in video you can just smoothly open and close the aperture, which honestly is just a fantastic feature to have. This little package right here is just a nimble, sweet, creative tool, and I think for all of you photographers looking for your next 50mm lens, or if you don't have a 50mm lens, I really highly recommend getting a lens like this. Also, it's going to save you some money going with the 50-1.4G Master versus the 50-1.2G Master. I think bokeh out of focus quality of this lens is fantastic. It's something that I think I'm going to keep enjoying using for a long time. What I like about 50 is it's kind of like in the middle of a 24-70 standard zoom. And so in a studio setting, I was able to get closer to my subject with my feet, or back up from my subject with my feet very easily. With 50, it gives you that flexibility to move in and out, how you're framing your subject and how you're creating the mood and the atmosphere of what you're trying to capture with this lens. In a lot of ways, if you were to just pick one lens, this is the one to get. Now, I know a lot of you say 24-70 2.8, but a lot of times a 24-70 is a bigger lens, it's a heavier lens, and it has a portion of the lens that moves in and out. And so I think a 50 is actually a really great lens to just use, especially if you're working with an individual subject where you can just get in a little closer, get in a little farther. And I love that you can focus pretty decently close with this lens. I'm not exactly sure what the precise measurement of the minimum focusing distance is. If I find out what it is, I'll just put it right here next to me. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of these images. And by the way, all of these images are going to be straight out of camera, so I'm not going to apply anything. All I did was take the portraits directly into Lightroom. First off, I just want to show some of the detail you're able to capture with this lens. I think if I zoom in here 100%, you can see all the detail of the makeup. This, by the way, all of these shots, I think most of them are at f1.4, and we'll verify the EXIF data as we look at it. In this shot, you can see a lot of the texture, all of the details that you want preserved, but then the shallow depth of field and the fall off is really nice. And here's an example of close-up shot. You can see I focused right in on her nails here, and you can see all of these small little intricate details on these pencils. And also, just another quick thing, moving from the Canon R5 to the A7 R5 has been a treat also. It's actually really nice to have the extra bit of resolution going to 60+ megapixels, especially for fashion photography or this kind of subject. It's really nice to have all the extra detail. As you can see here, look at this detail. In my opinion, having shot many 50mm lenses, I think the 50mm 1.4 G Master is the sharpest 50mm lens I've ever used, if I'm being completely honest with you. I think the one that comes close is the Zeiss Milvus 50mm 1.4, which that is a manual focus lens that I used on Canon. It was Canon EF. I still own that lens, and it's a fantastic lens. So here's an example. Look at that. Look at the sharpness on her eye. You can see the grid of my light. It's like razor sharp. I mean, I'm looking really close on my monitor here, and it's fascinating how sharp that is. Another example, just look at that. You can see this 60+ megapixels. You can see the reflection of her eyelashes on her actual eyeball, which is just unbelievable. We did get a little dystopian here with the photography, but it was a lot of fun shooting this. Let's look at something. I mean, look at this shot. Look how crazy this is. So I'll leave links to all the gear I used in this shoot, but I had a lot of fun using a RGB panel. It's a normal light panel too, but I'm able to rock out some RGB. But yeah, so here you can see the same thing. The level of detail and sharpness in her eye is phenomenal. Honestly, this shot is just so cool. I love the way the gradient of the RGB pink magenta hue just goes off into blackness over here. By the way, in Lightroom, when you're in this kind of grid view and you're just popping into these images, it's not really fully loading the image, it's loading kind of a preview. So when you go to the develop module, that's when it really pops it into the full resolution. Just a quick little pro tip for you guys when you're just looking at your images. Same thing, I'm just really impressed also with the autofocus of the 50mm 1.4 G Master. Even in really low light, of course you're at 1.4, so you're able to really have a fully open aperture. I did also shoot a little bit of video, which was a lot of fun. Not a ton, but really I wanted to focus on photography. And honestly, any of these images you see, just imagine being able to capture the video version of what you're looking at here. Uncanny amount of detail. You know, you're at 51.4 here, so you've got a really shallow depth of field, but it's just a lot of fun to use. You got to find a system, a lens, all the tools that allow you to not only do your work and get your job done, but also to have fun. If you're not connecting with your gear and having fun along the way, then it's time to move on. It's time to break up. All right, so yeah, this looks good. This is nice and sharp. Kind of cyberpunkish dystopian vibes going on with this. Here I just had my iPhone was in here with the light shining up on her face just to provide just a little more texture on her face. And you can see the light coming up and illuminating underneath, so then you get the shadow of her eyelashes up on her eyelid, which is really, really interesting. Look at this. So this is another great example of using the 50-1.4 G Master. So I was able to put a few things in front of her, behind her, to create more depth and layering. And I love the out of focus elements. To me, are very cinematic. So you're able to capture the overall image to help tell a story and also retain that precise sharpness on her eye. There's something special about this lens. It's not like a clinical, I mean, it is kind of like a clinical sharpness on her eye, but the way it renders the rest of the image is very cinematic to me, which is really cool to look at. I just think this is a spectacular way to use this lens. I was just really impressed with the A7R5's ability to focus in really kind of weird lighting scenarios. This isn't a normal situation because you're using these weird RGB lights, and some of the scenes were actually kind of dark. The A7R5's autofocus to nail focus every single time precisely on her eye was just a treat to use. Look at that. Look at the detail, the way it captures all of that. You're gonna see a lot more detail when you're stopping down to like 2.8. Yeah, and that's the trick with using a 1.4 aperture in a photo shoot, is you're gonna have to know that unless both the eyes are in the perfect flat plane of focus, you're gonna have one eye a little bit out of focus or a lot out of focus. And here's the fact: if you're going to get a 1.4 lens, you're buying it to shoot it at 1.4, and that's what I love about this Sony G Master lens. It's razor sharp at 1.4. Once you know that, then you know that every other aperture is going to be awesome and sharp. Well guys, that was fun. Thanks so much for stopping by today to check out my short review of the 50-1.4 G Master from Sony. If you get a chance, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Give a thumbs up if you liked today's content, and be sure to ring the bell to get notified when I drop a new video. And I'll see all of you guys on my next one.